Hello, you're listening to the Drawing the Ideal Self podcast, episode 60. And in today's episode, we're going to look at a PCP technique called the lying game. So the inspiration for this episode was really The Traitors. I don't know if you've been watching it. I love it because I really enjoy seeing the people construe each other. And I wonder what evidence they have for some of the constructions. There's a couple of papers written in this month's Psychologist magazine, and I'll put a link to that for anybody who wants to think about the psychology of the traitors. But this is about something slightly different. This is a technique which was developed by J.C. Bright when he was on a course at the Centre for Personal Construct Psychology, which unfortunately no longer exists. And that course would probably have been the advanced course. So the advanced course is the equivalent of the course that's in Padua at the moment. It's unfortunate that we don't have one in the UK, but that's just the practicalities of doing it. So you won't find this technique anywhere except in the PCP Pocketbook. And that's a book that we've published from the Coventry Constructivist Centre. It's very cheap. The idea of that book was to pull together all the PCP techniques we could find information for at the time that we wrote the book. So if you're looking for, what could you use to explore something with people, the book provides not only a list of the techniques, but also asks what you want to do, rather than go through the book and have to find it yourself. So it's got sections. So if you wanted to explore how a person construes, you go to part 1. If you want to look at a person's construct system, it's part 2. If you want to explore how a person construes themselves, it's 3. You can explore how a person construes themselves in relation to others, that's in part 4. Or explore how a person construes experiences, which is 5. Explore changes, which is 6, and demonstrate the effectiveness of your work, which is not PCP as such, but it's about how you can use different measures to show how effective the work that you've been doing has been. For each of the techniques in the book, it will tell you the origins, what it does, what materials you're going to need, a description of the technique, and then examples or where to find a good example, and references related to that technique. So the only place you're going to find the lying game is in this book, because it was never published as such. So this is its first publication. So I'm going to read some of that, but if you want to get the book, you will find a fuller description of it. I'm not saying this as a way of selling the book, because you could try and find the paper, but it's quite obscure, and we got it from a professor in Serbia who had kept a copy because he was at the PCP Centre at the same time. If you work with children and young people, this might be a particularly useful technique. And remember that anything we ask people about will have a contrast. So if we ask them, do they like swimming, and they say no, we might be able to explore the contrast, something that they do like, or something they see as very different from swimming. So there's always material there. So exploring lying, I think, is quite a fun way to engage, particularly teenagers who might be so used to talking to people like us that they're fed up with it, or they might think that what we're going to do with them is boring and make them feel incompetent. So it's quite a fun way of exploring construing. And what Bright says is, in defining a lie within PCP, an analogy may exist to Kelly's definitions of anxiety, threat, aggression and guilt. My hypothesis is that a lie is an invitation to misconstrue. The invitation to misconstrue may be at any level of psychological significance. It may also be non-verbal, for example, smiling at a person we do not like, to make them believe that they're welcome in your house. And he says every lie concerns at least 2 parties, the liar and the lied to. And when the liar tells their lie, the lied to person has a choice either to accept what they're being told or to reject it as untrue, i.e. as a lie. If they accept it, then the next issue is going to be what that lie means. And he gives an example. Suppose I tell you that the ice on a pond is safe. You look at it and reject my statement. It does not look safe to you. Or you accept my statement, walk on the ice and fall in. This is what I wanted to happen as a result of telling you it was okay. My lie has worked. My invitation to misconstrue was accepted. For those of you who've watched The Traitors, you've seen this in action. I will put a link for The Traitors for anybody who is not aware of it. So you see the people telling their lies and telling them with great conviction, and you see the impact of those lies on the people who are being lied to. And sometimes they're believed and sometimes they're not quite believed and sometimes they're rejected. So they might lead to some more questioning, or it's just accepted as, okay, that's true. Or I'll accept that it's true as far as now, but I might change my mind on that. And what's interesting about The Traitors is how difficult it is to disentangle liking people from believing them. And obviously the contrast to that is not liking people and not believing them. So the people who are less popular will have a harder job in the Traitors game because people won't believe what they tell them, whether that's true or false. The people who are very popular socially seem to have a much easier time. They tell their lies, and they might tell them badly even, but because people like them, they choose not to believe that to be a lie. And in the Traitors game, the intention is to win a pot of money, either for themselves in the ordinary Traitors or for the celebrity Traitors for their chosen charity. So the implication of believing a lie is that the person who's told you the lie might win the game and win all the money. But when you watch the people in it, it's very hard for them to stay sceptical about every single person in there. And inevitably, people will be drawn together with particular people because they've got things in common or they just seem to get on better with them. And we think of that in terms of PCP as sociality. So they're developing a role with that person, and then they can take part in interactions with that person within their roles, as say, a friend. But they can also, in the game, lie. So they can pretend to be a friend, or they could actually be a friend, and then they could lie their way into that person not winning the game and them winning. We saw that very well in the celebrity Traitors because there were a couple of the celebrities who were friends, and when something happened, nobody would have suspected that their friend would have murdered them in the game. It's very interesting. Okay, so remember that any lie somebody tells will have some kind of implication if the people believe it, that they're telling it to. So if you are working, say, with a child in school and you ask them, how do you get on with your homework? And they say, yeah, it's fine. That lie might be accepted by you because you don't know any different. The implication is that the child doesn't then have to explain that they find the work extremely difficult and cope with the embarrassment of that for themselves. What the lying game does is invite people to play a game which he called pseudo-lying. So they know they're going to tell lies. And that's a good thing about the Traitors. You know people are going to lie to you. So that gives you some safety in terms of you might choose to protect yourself psychologically from the impact of that. So he says that the technique is called a game because lies told at another's invitation can only be make-believe lies. They cannot be intended to deceive. My main argument is that the lies we tell about ourselves indicate wishes for change. This, I believe, is just as true of the lies that we tell about ourselves of our own accord from day to day, as it is with those that we tell within the framework of the lying game. Pseudo-lying merely attempts to tap this rich source of information, make the lies easier to tell within a game-like context, and allow the lies to surface and be looked at and to some extent evaluated. If I tell you a lie about myself, what I am doing, in terms of our definition, a lie is an invitation to misconstrue, this is making a statement to you that I do not believe, with intent to deceive you. I am inviting you to misconstrue me, or at least some aspect of me. I want you to think I'm something I'm not. My elaborative choice by which I anticipate the greater chance of extending or defining my construing system is to lie. Clearly, I think there's something in it. My inviting you to lie makes a game out of a serious undertaking. I invite you to act as if you were lying. This gives you the protection of make-believe. I invite you to say things about yourself you believe to be untrue, but in the same breath I absolve you of any attempt to deceive. This is pretend wrongdoing, play immorality. So he's saying that this is a game because the two people involved in it both know the situation, as in the traitors. You know that people are going to lie to you, and you have to be prepared for that. That idea of the game gives some safety to people, and it also allows us to do something that they expect to be a bit of fun. All you need for this technique is some pen and paper. So these are his instructions. Write down on a piece of paper, 1 to a line, some important lies about yourself. You judge what is important. The lie should be, on the short side, 1 idea to a lie. How many? 10 say, 20 or more if the idea appeals to you. You cannot have too many. So then the person writes down their list of lies, and you want that to be on the left side of the paper, because this is going to turn into a kind of table. And then he says, make 2 columns at one side of your paper and enter a Y or an N to indicate yes or no answers to the following questions. And these are interesting. Would you like this lie to be true, or prefer it to be true of you? And the second question is, would you like other people to believe this was true? So that question is seeking to understand whether somebody would like to change in relation to what they've said is a lie. So you might say an important thing about yourself is that you love your job. And then the question is, so is that what you would like to be true about yourself? Yes, I'm quite happy to love my job. Is that what you want other people to think? Maybe not, because if they think I love it, they might not make improvements to my job so that I can actually do it better or have a better time. So I don't want to be too clear about how much I actually love it with them. So you get the idea. So Bright goes on to say that he's noticed 4 possible patterns. So the way the lies pan out in the columns, you might have a no in both columns. So that's a no. He says, here the person is saying that they do not wish their lie to be true, and they do not want anyone else to believe it. Bright's suggestion is the person is saying that they do not wish change in the direction indicated by the lie. So if the lie was, I hate going to the theatre regularly, a no would be, no, I don't want that to be true about myself, and also I don't want other people to think I hate going to the theatre either. Then there's yes lies, so a yes in both columns. And he says, here the person is saying that they would like their lie to be true, and they would like other people to think it was true. For example, I am a world-renowned ballerina. I want that to be true, and I also want other people to think I'm a world-renowned ballerina. The next one, he says, is yes-no lies. And he says, here the person is saying that they would like the lie to be true, but would not like other people to think that it was true. So let's have an example of a child who says, I'm in the top set for English. They want that to be true about themselves, so they're given that a yes. However, they wouldn't want other people to think that about them. So there'd be an interesting question there about what's that about? Can you be seen in public to be liking English or not? What if you are seen liking English? What would happen then? What if you were really good at English? Would you still be able to keep the same friends? So there'd be lots of supplementary questions you could ask. And then the final pattern is no, yes. So here the person says that they would not wish the lie to be true, but would like other people to think it was. There's a concern with the image presented to others. And Bright comments, in my experience, this kind of a lie is rare and does represent a serious hypocrisy of a quite well-defined kind. So somebody might say, I really care about my teachers at school, and that's the lie, and they're quite happy with that not being true. They don't want to care about their teachers really, but they would like other people to think that they care about their teachers because it's to their advantage. So this was not subject to any research trials, but Bright comments that in his experience, I presume, to find 3 no-yes lies out of a total of 12 is unusual. And a no-yes is you don't want the lie to be true, but you want other people to think it's true. Okay, they might have yes-no lies. So here the person is saying that they would like the lie to be true, but would not like other people to think that it was true. So this might be somebody who's having cello lessons outside school, and they are just beginners, but what they've said is, I'm great at playing the cello, and they would like that to be true, but they don't want anybody else to know that that's true, because somehow that's not quite okay in school. If people find out, it's not the cool kids' activity. So what's the point of all this? And what Bright says is the responses indicate wishes to change within them. So if somebody wants to be good at the cello, that suggests that they want to change from how they are now to become good at the cello. That's a change. So without asking for things that the person wants to change in the very first place, you've got to that point. Interestingly, he suggests that finding 3 no-yes lies out of a total of 12 is unusual. Obviously, this is not based on research. This was based on his own actual research of doing his work. So a no-yes lie is, I don't want it to be true about myself, but I want other people to think it's true. So that might be somebody who has given a lie of, I do all my homework. I don't want that to be true about myself. I don't want to be the kind of person who does all their homework. However, I want everyone else to think that I do, because otherwise I'm going to get into trouble. So if you need a reminder of the technique, the easiest way to do that is to get the Pocketbook. It is super cheap, and it's downloadable as an ebook, or you can have it in paper, published through Amazon, because that's the cheapest way for us to do it. If you're interested in PCP techniques and trying them out, that's the quickest way to find some. So if you're somebody who's got to do a research project for a course that you're on, that might be quite a useful thing to have on your bookshelf, because you can refer back to it. You can find out what kind of techniques suit what kind of situation, and you can get all the references for where you can find them. So this is the only one that doesn't have a reference that you can go and pick up, I think. I can't quite remember if that's true, but I think that was the case. So there is only a sort of rather worn and crumpled copy of the original. However, the instructions in the Pocketbook are good enough to use. What it doesn't tell you in the Pocketbook at all is why you might be interested in PCP, what PCP can do. There's none of that kind of the theory in there. If you want that, you could go to the Foundation Guide or one of our other books. Or, of course, you can go to George Kelly's The Psychology of Personal Constructs. The Pocketbook is just the techniques, and we will at some point need to revise it because other things have been found since that either we weren't aware of or have been developed since then. Okay, so that's the lying game. I suggest you try it on yourself first, as with all PCP techniques, see what you make of it, and then have a go with somebody. And it's, the idea is that you're exploring changes a person might want to make without them having to say, yeah, I want to change this list of things. Okay, Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you again next month.